for being here. We're going to start with a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay, we've got a full agenda, so we're going to get right at it. First is approval of minutes for November 18th, 2025. Can I
Move
get a
approval.
motion? Any discussion, additions, deletions, corrections, anything anyone wants to add? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next is a presentation and adoption. Sorry, I was wrong about this, Councilmember Gregory. Presentation and adoption of Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan. Mr. Wallace and team.
Yeah, thank you,
Floor is
Mr. Chairman.
yours. And the
So
clock
this
is on.
yeah, I'm going to try to hurry through. I'm not giving the presentation. I'm just letting you know this is the last time you'll hopefully see the safety action plan. This is the final product. We're presenting it for adoption. This is a federal grant to identify high injury network in the city and then identify projects to mitigate crashes of severe and fatal.
And this is a result of a grant that we got.
Yes, sir. As a result of a federal grant. So once this is approved, then we'll go and ask the feds for more money to implement the projects. And that'll be early next year. So we have Nick Jean here from Kimley Horn to give a presentation on the final action plan.
All right. Thank you, James. And so as you may remember, or may not, because it was back in July, we have been here once before to present the draft of the safety action plan. That was mid-July. Since then, we've worked through revisions with our steering committee, which included partner jurisdictions across the region, address comments, and then we had just missed getting this on the agenda the past two rounds. So we're here to present the final safety action plan. Because we went into such great detail back in July, this presentation is going to be a bit more condensed, but I do want to start with some background to kind of reorient ourselves with what it is that we've been working on. And so the best thing to start with always is framing the problem. So for all of us who live here, drive here, walk here, bike here, we know we're well aware of the safety issues that the city and the greater region have. So some of the statistics on the screen help to frame that. So over the 6-year study period that we looked at as part of this plan, from 2018 to 2023, there were over 37,000 crashes within city limits. That does not include the interstates. If you consider the costs associated with property damage as well as injuries and fatalities from those crashes, the dollar equivalent impact of those crashes is over $3 billion. And so these crashes not only cost the city and its residents a lot of money, they cost a lot of time. So there was a study that was done a couple of years ago that found that 15% of all travel delays across the state are attributable to crashes and the delays that we experience when there's a lane blocked and then we're sitting in traffic waiting for that to be cleared. I would argue that that number is probably even a bit higher here in Charleston because of how constrained our network is and how frequent crashes are. And then one last little bit that is somewhat unique to the Charleston area with the tourist nature, the good weather that we have most of the year. It's been cold the last couple of days. We have lots of folks that are walking and cycling, and those are exactly the road users that are most likely to be injured or killed when a crash does occur. The statistics that we had looked at through this plan show that those users are up to 20 times more likely to be injured when involved in a crash. And so you can see on the map there, that's not all crashes, that's just the fatal and serious injury crashes that occurred within the city over that 6-year period. So the map is pretty well saturated with dots, which really speaks to how large of an issue this is for the city. So just to tack onto that in 2024, since we hadn't studied that period as part of the plan development, since we started developing this plan last year, an additional 81 people were involved in fatal or serious injury crashes across the city. Back in October, I think it was, the city passed a Target Zero resolution, which aligns with SCDOT's broader vision for eliminating fatalities and serious injuries statewide. That commits the city to substantially eliminating all fatalities and serious injuries by 2050. So what we did through the plan, to kind of wrap it into a nutshell, first off, we reviewed the state of safety in Charleston, which is what I just got finished summarizing. So that's just taking crash history and providing a summary of what it is that we're seeing, where we're seeing crashes occur, and what the severity of those crashes are. Using that data, we defined and narrowed in on the high crash and high risk locations. So we know that crashes are occurring everywhere, but where can we get the most bang for our buck in investing in safety improvements across the city? After identifying those locations, we identified a short list of safety countermeasures to ultimately feed into, as James mentioned, future applications for additional funding through various programs through USDOT, as well as other programs across the region, such as the transportation sales tax that'll be back on the ballot again, and other programming efforts. And then I've bolded here that developing a plan for implementation is the last piece of what this plan does, and that's the most important piece. We don't want this to be a plan that just sits on a shelf. I know James said this is the last you'll hear of it. Hopefully it's not, because we'll then actually implement the actions and projects that were identified in the plan. So to walk back through the timeline of things, and James covered a little bit of this before I got up here, we started this process back last December. So we've been working on this for about a year. We worked through all of that analysis that I just mentioned, several rounds of public engagement that I'll cover in a second. And we've worked our way here to now, where we adopt the plan, but you'll see there's a couple boxes that remained unchecked there as we get into next year. The city has already applied for what we call a demonstration grant, which is a smaller amount of money to kind of pilot some of the strategies that are identified in this plan at various locations across the city. So we still haven't heard back from that. I think with the government shutdown and whatnot, things have moved a little bit more slowly than typical for USDOT, but everything that we've heard on our end and working with our partners is that those awards should be announced soon. So hopefully the city's in line to receive that funding. That'll kind of be the initial stages of getting some of these projects on the ground. And then next year, there's one more round of funding available through this Safe Streets and Roads for All program that the city will then be positioned to apply for an implementation grant, which is actually the construction funding for these projects. The hope is also that this program will continue into the future. That's not yet been established, but again, everything that we're hearing from our partners is that this program will certainly continue into the future. It's just how exactly that looks might be shifting with there having been an administration change since the program started in 2021. The last thing on the bottom there that is particularly important with this and this plan actually living on and being updated and implemented is this formation of a Target Zero task force. So that'll fall back onto James and his team and starting to help coordinate a group of technical experts and stakeholders to oversee this plan's implementation over time. That'll be critical as we move forward to make sure that it doesn't sit on a shelf, but that there are actually recurring touch points on folks' calendars and that these recommendations are being implemented. So on to the plan's development and recommendations. So to quickly recap the community engagement rounds that we went through starting last January, or this January, we held a citywide safety summit. I know a couple of you folks were there over at off of, I'm blanking on the name of it, the Christopher Center. And that was kind of a half-day session to really dive into the weeds of what the data is telling us, but then combine that with our anecdotal experience across the city. That was really our launching point to understanding and diagnosing the safety issues that the city faces. We then had 2 rounds of traditional public workshops with the general public, where we also offered public surveys. And so one result of the public surveys that I thought was striking that I put on the slide here is a plot of how residents in different areas of the city feel in terms of how comfortable they are by travel mode. And so the dark blue bars are by car, light blue is walking on foot, and the green bars are cyclists. And you can see that outside of Daniel Island, most respondents said that they feel very uncomfortable walking or cycling across the city. A little bit of a mixed bag driving by car, but I think that just speaks to where the general public sees the state of safety within the city of Charleston. So after gathering all that input and doing a summary level analysis of the data, we honed in on those priority locations where we really need to focus our attention. Everything that's shown on the map here is, these are all the roadway segments that experienced the highest density of fatalities and serious injuries over that 6-year period from 2018 to 2023. There's a couple of different colors going on. The red is just overall, where are we seeing the most fatalities and serious injuries? You can see, unsurprisingly, that a lot of the core arterials are highlighted on here: US 17, SC 61, Sam Rittenberg, that we're going to hear about in a moment, Folly Road, and then various roadways on the peninsula and Johns Island as well. And then in gold, those are areas where pedestrians and cyclists are most commonly involved in crashes that result in injuries to that group. So altogether, although this may look like a lot of segments, it represents less than 10% of the city's overall roadway network, and it constitutes more than half of all the fatalities and serious injuries. So as we worked through this plan, we focused our attention on developing recommendations for these corridors. What will also be important into the future is that this data is refreshed over time, so that again falls back on that task force that I mentioned, and collecting data at recurring periods to see, okay, this is where we started with the plan. We've started to implement the recommendations. How are we seeing things trending over time to actually track our progress and make sure that we're moving in the right direction? And so that's the purpose of the recommendations that came out of this. So together, we've got 2 buckets of recommendations that came through the plan. We've got our engineering countermeasures, which those are more of your traditional construction projects, things we got to go out and build to improve our roadways and our pedestrian and cyclist facilities. We've got 52 of those projects at various locations across the city recommended as part of the plan. And then we've got these 17 actions, priority actions that are listed out here. Those more fall into the bucket of enforcement, education, and different things that we need to be doing to evaluate our progress over time as well. So just to provide one example, the plan will be publicly posted online, so anybody will be able to access the entire document, which will summarize all of this in detail. But just to provide one example, and I chose this because it ties into that demonstration project that the city is already pursuing funding for. Looking at our non-motorized enhancements, so these are improvements to pedestrian crossings and pedestrian and bicycle facilities, sidewalks, paths, bike lanes, things of that nature across the city. So this map shows all of the recommendations that came out of the plan in that category. And we've got these tier 1 locations listed on the right. So there was a prioritization process that we worked through in consultation with the steering committee as well as city staff to take a larger list of those 52 projects and narrow that down to what our top priorities are so that we know what to pick from as we start to apply for funding. Some of the locations that fell out in this category were pedestrian and bicyclist improvements on Magwood Drive and SC 61 in West Ashley, and then along the East Bay Street corridor downtown, as well as in the East Side, North Central, and West Side neighborhoods on the peninsula. And I think that last bullet is a few of those locations where the demonstration project is looking at improvements to pedestrian crossings. So in the plan, the way that it's arranged, if you were to review it, you would see
Just
that.
gonna give you the 5-minute warning.
Okay. You'd see that an example project like I just covered is provided within the plan, and then in the back of the plan, there is a cut sheet, so to speak, for each of the projects that provides an extremely detailed set of information. You're not meant to be able to read this, but every single one of those 52 projects gets a sheet summarizing where it is, the crash history that's been experienced there, what the project is that we're proposing, and then all of the costs anticipated as part of that project from design through construction. As well as a benefit cost ratio. So what are we expecting to get in return for implementing this project? So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, key actions, and I've highlighted 2 in bold that are really most important, I think. Number 1 is establishing that task force that will keep us moving in the right direction over time with this plan to make sure it doesn't sit on a shelf, that we're actually tracking our progress and holding ourselves accountable. And of course goes hand in hand with number 6, which is maintaining this plan over time. The 17 action plans that are laid out, 17 priority actions laid out within the plan, all provide a great bit of detail on who's responsible for that and under which timeline all of that should be occurring. In the middle there, there's some additional planning studies and engineering studies that have been recommended as well that should be advanced in the near term. And then again, on the right, just highlighting that we've got some additional funding opportunities coming up in 2026 that the city is well positioned to take advantage of, and so it's critical that the city gets their name in the hat for that funding as well. So that's all I have for today. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your hard work on this. Any questions from any member of the committee? We do have 2 members of the committee that are online. Any questions, comments, Mayor?
Just a comment. This is great information, a lot of data. I think in light of the meetings that we've been having on TST related to the transportation sales tax, which you mentioned earlier in your presentation, absolutely want to marry what is being studied here with what our priorities are there, because I think there's a lot of good information that will inform both initiatives. Thank you.
Any other questions, Councilmember McBride?
Quick question for clarification, just as an example, using the Riverland Maybank intersection, I saw that was one of the target points you guys identified. With TST funding, we hope to be able to do a comprehensive redo of that whole intersection with turn lanes and all kinds of stuff. Short of that, the engineering suggestions, less expensive and more implementable, I guess you could say, with like grants and that kind of thing for safety improvements for that intersection, for example, short of adding turn lanes and that kind of thing. Do you see what I'm trying to ask?
Could you rephrase it?
Okay, so Maybank Riverland intersection.
Yep.
Increasing accidents and that kind of stuff. And we all hope to, the TST, the county's TST will pass. We'll bring in a whole lot of money to be able to redo that whole intersection with turn lanes and everything. But short of that, like in lieu of that, would there are some of the recommendations, engineering recommendations, things that are more cost effective that would still improve safety in the meantime?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way this plan is structured, there is a specific improvement identified for that intersection, which is the turn lanes. The scope of that project might be less expansive than what's being pursued as part of the TST. But as part of the plan as well, there's a countermeasure toolbox that's included in the back that gives us a full menu to pull from in terms of potentially effective safety countermeasures. And so for any of these locations, even if there was a specific project conceptualized in here, we've got that toolbox in the back. If we get to the point that we're actually identifying the opportunity to fund that project and there's not sufficient funding to build, the Taj Mahal, whatever the most ideal solution would be, we can pull from that toolbox. And so there's a whole wide range of safety countermeasures from more expensive to less expensive, but all geared towards, hopefully that answers your question. Sorry.
Well, it just seems to me that this study is just another tool that we can use to promote the half-cent sales tax. I mean, when it comes to safety, we've just now spent a whole bunch of time and a bunch of money identifying throughout the city of Charleston a number of places that we need to go to work, and it's going to take some money to do it. I know this was done through a federal grant. I don't think there's going to be a lot of money raining on our head from the feds to implement all the things that you've recommended. So again, something that we need to really collectively talk about to make the city and this region safer, and the TST is certainly one way to do it. Thank you very much for your time, for your presentation, and for your work. Appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to have AMT work on this project. It's been a while since I've been able to present here, so I'm happy to be here. So over the past year, we've been tasked with retiming signals, predominantly Maybank Highway and Folly Road were the two main corridors that were identified, but it also included Harborview Road as well as the Fielding Connector. In all, it was 30 traffic signals. We separated into 7 corridors or 7 areas, being Lower Maybank in the bottom left of the screen, which really is Maybank and Main Road, and also Brownswood and Main Road, and then the Upper Maybank corridor from River Road up to Woodland Shores, and then the 5 signals there, we call them Folly Triangle. It's a corridor there, which is the 5 signals there at Folly and Maybank, and then your Windermere Triangle area where you've got those routes come together there, and then Fielding Connector, you have the 2 signals there near Porter-Gaud, and then the Folly Road corridor being the longest one, which is from Fort Johnson Road up to Harborview Road. So kind of the first thing is Nick kind of pointed on this as well, was understanding the problem and understanding what are our goals and objectives. And there's a similar list here that you'll see in a lot of other projects, large capacity projects as well, which is improve traffic flow, reduce congestion throughout the corridor, decrease travel times, increase the average travel speed in a congested environment, obviously not above the speed limit, but when you when you're seeing low speeds because of congestion, we want to improve upon that and reduce delay, reduce how long you're sitting at those signals and throughout the corridor. And so, retiming signals and coordinating signals throughout a corridor is probably maybe the most cost-effective way of making improvements. If you compare it to large capacity improvements, which you spend millions and millions of dollars on, this is pennies compared to what that cost is. to do this. So it's very important to do this routinely. I would say probably 3 to 4 year cycle, I believe, is the industry standard. And so it was a much needed project within these corridors. So as engineers do, data is what drives us. So the first thing we did was we started with office data collection. So understanding what data is readily available. We researched and analyzed the development of development reports for different developments along each of the corridors, such as traffic impact analyses, identifying compounding features such as, say, Wapu Cut Drawbridge that impacts there at the Folly Road Triangle, large traffic generators that are coming into play, complicated intersections. Obviously, Maybank and River Road and Fenwick this is complicated corridors. These were not easy corridors to retime and coordinate. But and then it's collecting all of the available signal plans and the controller data that's out there. Then it turns to the field data collection process. And this is where we did a lot of work here. We've got our technicians and engineers within our office were able to go out and go through the controller boxes. And really, this is an opportunity for us also to look at the operations, understand is there hardware that needs to be replaced, or is there broken hardware, faulty things? We're able to do an assessment of the current conditions, provide recommendations for improvements there. We collect turning movement counts at the intersections. We do travel time runs throughout the corridors. And then one of the things that we do is we collect drone imagery at the corridors, which this is an opportunity for us to get a bird's eye view, one of that intersection, but also the other intersections upstream and downstream. And we're able to see how that traffic progresses through those signals and along the corridor. Is it working currently, or is it not working? How can we improve there? So the signal timing process itself is a bit iterative, and this is the FHWA a chart here, but we all do it kind of similarly, but there are some uniqueness to our process. So it's really an iterative process. Like I said, we do the data collection, and then upon that, we use that data to create models, and that's where we use a lot of the drone imagery as well, those videos, to really calibrate our models, so we know we have a very accurate accurate representation of what you see every day in the field. And then we develop traffic timing plans from that, and then we go back and forth with model traffic timing plans till we feel like we have the best signal plan or traffic signal plan that we can implement. Then we sit down with the city staff and go through that, and we have a no-go meeting and decide, all right, are we ready to go? And then it becomes time for implementation and fine-tuning. And that's where you get, I think, a lot of bang for your buck. And we also, once again, we use drone imagery and video during this implementation phase. We'll have typically 2 folks in the field doing this. One's manning the drone while the other one is, I'll say, tinkering or fine-tuning, making sure that what we implement and making tweaks, and we can see the impact of those tweaks in real time. And one of the unique things we were able to do with this project, we were able to live stream it so that myself and others and James and even SCDOT could see what we were doing on a Teams call. We were able to show that live feed. So it was pretty neat to be able to do that, and very efficient of our use of time for us. So I'll dig into the results here. These are in alphabetical order. Fielding Connector had 2 signals there, the Ashley Point Drive and the Krogan Spur Road. You can see here, green being good, that we're able to decrease travel time. The measurements of effectiveness here: travel time, delay per vehicle, and speed. So speed going up, delay per vehicle going down, travel time going down as well. So all green in all phases here on all times of the day. And next, we've got some before and after photos, or videos rather, and you can see that progression of traffic. On the left, you can see the before. You can see, what you'll see is a lot of times at Krogan Spur, you'll see a number of stops, and then you hit another stop immediately when you get to Ashley Point. One of the things that we were able to work through there was that progression of those, of that traffic through both of the signals without stop or without delay. Folly Road being the, let's say, the longest, had 8 signals along that corridor, like I said, from Harborview Road up to, or down to Fort Johnson Road. We also included the James Island Expressway, that southbound movement that you see there. So you'll see some red here on the southbound movement along Folly Road. However, that was really more of a balancing of the traffic, not necessarily, I would say, a negative. It's more of a balancing act between the travel directions there. But what it allowed us to do by giving some priority to the James Island Expressway was significantly able to reduce the travel time of that southbound left turn off the James Island Expressway.
So you just extended the time of the green light coming off the connector onto Folly Road?
Extended the time or reduce the number or reduce the length of some of the cycle lengths. So it allowed us to phase through those quicker and allow to push more traffic through. And this one's an interesting one because you've got close proximity to each other. You got Central Park Road, you got the James Island Expressway, and then you hit Ellis Oak. And one of the recommendations we have in the report there at Ellis Oak is to change some of the signals there. We've got protected left turns there at Ellis Oak that we could remove those, and you'll find some more efficiencies within that Folly Road corridor there as well. This is the AM plan at Folly and Camp Road. And what you see here, you'll see that platoon of traffic there that just left at Camp Road along Folly. They'll continue to progress pass through Rivers Point Row and beyond without that continuous stop at each of the intersections. Right. The Folly Triangle, and this is why I'll give some Tarcisio. This was his baby, and this was a complicated 5-signal interchange, if you will.
It's like Dante's Inferno. I mean, you can't, how do you get in and out of there?
Tarcisio was able to squeeze out a lot of efficiency out of this intersection, this interchange. He made some tweaks there. We've done a number of things, and it's also been impacted by Central Park Road, the closure of Central Park Road. There's a lot of traffic that makes a right off of James Island Expressway, left on Central, all the way down to Riverland Drive. And so during the time of that closure, this area here, Maybank got a lot more traffic. And now that it's open, I think it's starting, James and I were talking about this before, it's starting to see a shift back to Central, but not as much as we expect it will in the future.
So Central Park Road's closing up again, right, after the holidays? It's open now for good? Oh,
Open
wow.
up for good.
All right.
So we've got what we did here. You'll see some
I'm
red.
going to give you the same warning, 5-minute warning.
All right. So Folly Road, you see a little bit of red here. Once again, this is more balancing and prioritization given to Maybank Highway. And so you'll see improvements there on Maybank, as well as Old Folly Road. But overall, the interchange there works much better. I mean, historically, when I've come this direction, you see a pretty large backup along the heading northbound on Folly. I would see a lot of backup there at Tatum Street and through that intersection, and all of that's been alleviated now. So there's a number of improvements there. Old Folly Road seems to be working much better than it did in the past as well. So overall, we feel like we've successfully retimed this interchange. If you video, this is the AM around 9 o'clock in the morning. A little more congestion on the left, pretty free flowing on the right side. So this is what we wanted to see. All right, Lower Maybank. These are the two the two signals there, Main and Brownswood and Main and Maybank. These, we saw some pretty good improvements here. 43 to 39, 111 to 87, almost cutting it half there on the southbound of from 64 to 37. So pretty significant improvements there, coordinating those two signals together. Show you here. This is at 7:20 in the morning, right during the peak hour, and you can see a very heavy movement that headed toward Kiowa, if you will, on Main Road, and then you have pretty heavy left from Maybank going toward Kiowa as well. What's interesting enough, we did see the bottom left or the left quadrant there, you see a lot of folks that will leave a space for folks to make a left out of the gas station, which sometimes causes that signal to gap out when folks aren't sitting on the traffic loop there. Upper Maybank Highway, and I'll say this was the most complicated because it includes River Road and Fenwick Hall. So we did our best here to get these signals in the best condition we could to move traffic along the corridor, which overall the results turned out really well. Maybank River, Maybank and Fenwick was very complicated. And I'll say this is where signal timings versus capacity improvements we're hitting our limits on what you can do from a signal timing standpoint. And you really, this is an oversaturated intersection that needs to be larger. It needs to have better, it has to have some improvement. The interaction there with the right turns off of River Road, the left turns off of River Road, all the turns, all the movements, it's complicated, it's congested. It's the interaction with Fenwick Hall, right? So we move quickly from these two intersections. We move quickly to concentrate on, all right, how do we get folks out of there? Once they're out of there, how can we progress them through all the way up through Woodland Shores? And that's where you see a lot of good results here, and you see some good green numbers on the travel times, like the westbound 6:09 to 5:35. So we saw some significant improvements there in travel time and speed, which is great. This is the noon plan at Maybank and Woodland Shores. It's a good progression there through those signals. And I'm running short on time, so I'm going to move on. Windermere Triangle, another very complicated area of the city, and its interaction there with St. Andrews Boulevard, Savannah Highway, and Windermere, Folly Road Boulevard up to Albemarle Road. And so a lot's going on there. So we worked hard there to make some improvements. We saw some improvements. You see some balancing there between the reds and the greens, concentrating on the corridors, concentrating on Folly Road. So significant improvements once again, but definitely a balancing and a kind of a give-take situation. Moving on. So what I touched on earlier was when we were able to go through these, we're able to understand how they operate today and what improvements need to be made. Whether it's some of the things we found in the field or some of the things we found during the analyses of each of the intersections and corridors. So some of the things kind of generally throughout is replacing what we call the doghouse, the 5-section head with the 4-section head, installation of blank out signs, prohibiting right on red during the pedestrian movement, installation of new vehicle detection. I know the one at headquarters has been a bit of a pain for you guys to maintain that one since initial installation. And then some of the things here, Folly Road, adding an advanced warning signal head at Eugene Gibbs, where just this line of sight is a little tough. Right in, right out median at Harborview Road. Repositioning signal heads there at the Folly Triangle. This is the one at Wapoo Creek Drive, at the Harris Teeter that goes back to the Crab House. Reconfiguring the southbound right turn on Folly Road at Maybank to a dual right turn. Upper Maybank Highway, this is at headquarters. You currently have left turns that come out of headquarters that coming toward the city. You've got 2 crosswalks there. That left turn conflicts with that pedestrian movement across. I hate to take away crosswalks, but this is one that I feel like you've got a good operation there, and reducing it down to the one crossing across Maybank Highway you'll find some efficiencies without sacrificing safety.
All right, thank you very much. Super interesting. I mean, I get it, we need some more capacity, but in the meantime, this really does help us with our traffic flow in some really difficult spots.
Absolutely.
So, any questions from the committee? Quickly, please.
So, and this is the AI. This is that's the lighting times, correct? AI structure.
No, not really. We're using the drone imagery, and we've got our guys are watching this, utilizing this drone imagery. Like I said,
Okay.
calibrating. I wouldn't say AI. We use traffic models.
Yes.
Actual intelligence. So from here on out, I don't know, I don't know the structure of the contract, I guess. Like from here on out, is there still adjustments being made based on traffic flow, school in session, school out of session, things like that? Or is it?
We did all of our adjustments while school was in session.
Right. But I mean, as the population grows and changes from today in the future, what is the structure of this contract for your support for this, or is it done?
Well, as our current scope of work, we're done. I mean,
Okay.
He was saying we need to do this every 3 to 5 years.
Right.
Okay.
What was right? Redo it.
Okay. Got it.
Got a good baseline.
all right.
AMT intelligence. Thank you. Awesome. Appreciate it. All right. Who we got next? Mr. Pullman, I think you're up next.
All right, thank you, council members. Yes,
Thank you for
so
coming, cross-pollinating departments. I love this.
indeed. All right, so yes, this is the Sam Rittenberg redesign. We just had a public meeting last Wednesday on this. This is a project that's essentially a combination of about 10 years worth of different levels of public input. So we really have just been able to move forward very quickly on this. We got Stantec on board, I think in June. So this plan is what we have compiled from June until now. The overall goal of it was to provide pedestrian pathways on each side of Sam Rittenberg Boulevard to improve crosswalks for safety for pedestrians. As Safe Streets for All mentioned earlier, Sam Rittenberg Boulevard has a high amount of pedestrian injuries and fatalities along it. In addition to that, recognizing that this is a major thoroughfare, so we also have to balance out safe ways to allow the vehicular movement around this area. With that quick crash of introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Stantec.
Thank you very much. My name is Josh Mitchell with Stantec Transportation Engineer, and thank you for the opportunity to present today. So I want to talk through kind of our study area and then the phasing of this project and then future phases of the project for the city. So you'll see there on the right, that's the entirety of Sam Rittenberg Boulevard, really from the North Bridge all the way down to US 17, and that was our study area for this concept plan. But moving forward first is going to be that green segment, section 4, which is what Charleston County is doing in that area near the Ashley Landing development. So that'll move forward in the near future. But then with this project, 30% plans will be our next phase after we move forward past the concept development portion of this project. And that'll be the section in between Ashley River Road and Charlestown Drive. So that'll be our first 2 segments to really move forward with some plans and then follow up with the later portions on either end at a future date. So as we start with really any corridor study, we inventory what's out there today. And so we looked at a number of different elements. In the interest of time, I won't go into detail on each of these, but we really looked at all of these to identify deficiencies, opportunities, and then constraints. I do want to mention, though, just overall, today, Sam Rittenberg is characterized by It's obviously got access to major destinations, major thoroughfares, and other regional connections. It has varying transit facilities along the route. There are transit routes along the corridor. There's no bicycle facilities. There's intermittent sidewalk. As you can see in the picture, there's portions where folks are certainly walking, but there's no facility available. There's a wide right-of-way along the entirety of the corridor. And then sometimes there's places where it could be better utilized. There's actually areas of excess roadway capacity. And then there's unreliable travel times. We mentioned the impact of crashes on travel times. This corridor certainly experiences that. And then we have high access point density, which can lead to many of those crashes and to conflicts and congestion along the corridor as well. Do want to talk about traffic volumes a little bit in detail here, just to make a few points. So where we're oriented is the North Bridge is to your right, and then US 17 is to your left. And so we've got varying cross sections and varying volumes along the corridor. Obviously on the far right, that's where you're coming over the bridge. We've got 6 lanes there. Of course, that's where Sam Rittenberg and Charlestown, Old Town Road come together. So you've got high traffic volumes there. But after that split on Sam Rittenberg, you've really got comparable traffic volumes the entire way, hovering around 25 to 30,000 vehicles per day. But you've got a section with 6 lanes and you've got a section with 4 lanes. And so that's where we see that opportunity for you've got comparable traffic volumes, but a different cross section between that 4 and 6. So that'll come into play when we talk about some of our recommendations coming up here in a minute. In terms of speeds, we did a detailed speed study because that was a big emphasis for this corridor as well. And so it's posted at 45 miles per hour through most of the corridor. But those 50th percentile speeds or average speeds range from as low as 35 in some areas to 44 in others, and then 85th percentile from 43 to 50. And those two speeds or thresholds are really what we look at when we're looking at evaluating the appropriate speed limit along the corridor. And in crash history, of course, we looked at the corridor in a number of different ways and slice and dice it in numerous ways. But I just want to mention that overall, over the past 5 years through the end of 2024, when the data that was available, over 2,000 crashes, which is over 1 a day on average. And then in terms of fatal and injury crashes.
That's why there's all those law offices over there.
Right. And
Sorry.
no problem. And over
Made a traffic engineer laugh. That's like a first in 16 years.
We do have a sense of humor sometimes, but over 500 fatal or injury crashes, which is almost 2 per week. So certainly it's impacting this corridor, almost every day, and then from a severe crash, almost twice a week. So certainly something that we wanted to address with this study. And I wanted to look at pedestrian and bicycle crashes as well. So obviously not as many of the crashes on the corridor, but they frequently lead to either a fatality or an injury as a vulnerable road user. And so this was an emphasis area for us, certainly, as Eric mentioned, and wanted to pinpoint where, why, how those crashes are occurring so we could address those along the corridor as well. So we always like to have a baseline, of course, with existing conditions, but also in the future if we were to do nothing in terms of geometric improvements. But we did want to look at what's coming along this corridor from a development standpoint. And so for our future volume projections, we looked ahead all the way to 2050. And looked at background growth in the area, but we also looked at some of those major developments that we know and anticipate are coming, including the Ashley Landing development that's kind of on the northeastern side of the corridor, and then the Epic Center at Citadel Mall, which has some significant redevelopment opportunities. And so we had the traffic studies that were completed independently for those areas and filtered those traffic volumes into the network as well to make sure that we are accommodating future traffic demand. So, as traffic engineers, we do love our colors. And so green is good. And as you get to orange and red, those are where you're experiencing higher delays. And this is no build, again, if we do nothing from a geometric standpoint. And what we're seeing is many of the stop controlled intersections currently experience and are expected to continue to experience even worsening delay. And then you do see some delay at the signalized intersections as well. And then I'll show a similar graphic as we move into some of our future build conditions. And so what we're recommending along this corridor, there's really 3 main buckets. One is roadway and access management related improvements. We have some intersection improvements, and then we have multimodal facility improvements. And so from an access management standpoint, one of the big ticket items is really a raised and landscape planted median through much of the corridor. And then so in addition to that, we'd have U-turn location opportunities as we restrict those movements, but we'll have median breaks for left turn movements as well. And so it's really choosing ideal locations for those access points as opposed to open free access as there is today, really to improve safety. We also have in that 6-lane section along Sam Rittenberg that I mentioned, converting that to a 4-lane section between Ashley River Road, SC 61, and US 17 because of that available excess capacity, and really using that right away to give ourselves some of those multimodal facility improvements. So the plan anticipates a shared use path on both sides, and we're targeting 12 feet, which is quite wide for a shared use path. And that's the target through the entirety of the corridor, to really have paths on both sides. And we also have some additional signalized improvements, a new signal, and some additional crossings for pedestrians where those signal spacings are a little more distant to provide them another mid-block opportunity to cross. So from a cross-section standpoint, wanted to talk through kind of, this is the southern portion first. So again, those segments 1, 2, and 3. So this is between US 17 and Charlestown Drive. And so today it varies. Again, we mentioned the 6-lane portion kind of in the southern area, segment 1, and then it's 4 lanes, segments 2 and 3. We recommend and propose going to a similar cross-section for this entire area, which would bring it to 4 lanes throughout, with, again, those dedicated paths on either side for bicycles and pedestrians. And the goal here would, again, be to plant those medians and street trees and have an additional traffic calming effect, but maintain capacity for the vehicular demand that we've got there.
Then is all turning activity at a traffic light as opposed to from that middle median?
It's the left turns coming out of access points are at signalized locations, but we do have brakes for left turns in because that movement's typically a little safer to make. And so we have dedicated points, and I'll show an example of that in a second here. So that I'm skipping segment 4 just because that's been designed by the county, but that would be a similar cross section to what we have at 1, 2, and 3. And then 5, of course, we're not anticipating changing capacity here. It certainly needs all the capacity it can get in this area, given the high traffic volumes. It would just be, again, the access management and an additional side path on both sides in this area.
And it needs a new bridge.
It does.
Just put that in there on the top, please. 6, new bridge.
Yeah. Yeah, we can accommodate that. Okay, so I don't have time to go through the entire concept, but I did want to show a representative view, and this is that section 3, which would be what we would attempt to move forward with first. And the goal with moving forward here first is it's a little bit of a simpler area. There's not as much access today, so we can hopefully build up some steam for the project and move this segment first. But I did want to mention, as you can see in the green in the middle, that would be the landscape median. But hopefully you can see some examples of those breaks where we're allowing left turns into some of the major cross streets or major driveways. And then we have locations for U-turns on kind of either side of where we're restricting access, so that we give folks an opportunity, okay, if you can't turn left out, you can take a right and then make a U-turn at a dedicated location. And then in the middle of the corridor there is one of the new pedestrian hybrid beacons, the crossings for pedestrians, because these two signals at Ashley Hall and Charlestown Drive are pretty far apart. So if you're a pedestrian trying to cross in the middle, you'd have a long way to go, a circuitous route. So another opportunity to cross in the middle there. So this really kind of demonstrates what we're attempting to do on the entirety of the corridor, but just wanted to show this as an example. Okay, so looking, if we were to accomplish all of that, what would our level of service look like? And really at all the stop controlled intersections, it's significantly improved. Now that's not a huge surprise because we're simplifying a lot of those movements, but you do see the improvements there. And then at the signalized locations, you have comparable delay or level of service. And so, that's the goal of really accommodating our vehicular demand to make sure we're not having an adverse impact on the traffic flow through the corridor. And what's not shown up in the level of service is the impact of the raised medians. And just want to mention this related to the reliability, the travel time reliability of the corridor. Obviously our goal is safety, but it also has an operational benefit. So if you have fewer crashes, you have fewer delays related to those crashes. And so the raised medians attempt or really help you in that regard as well. All right, so I want to close on this slide, and these are some of the representative images that we've developed, and we have the entire concept plan, but I just want to reiterate that kind of problem statement. That goal is to redesign Sam Rittenberg Boulevard to have a consistent, unified design, prioritizing placemaking through multimodal connectivity and safety, but while accommodating vehicular traffic demand. And I can take any questions or clarify anything if needed.
All right, thank you very much for that presentation. Much like the others we've had today, it was excellent. Any questions from any member of the committee on the recommendations? You said you had a public meeting recently on this,
Last Wednesday.
and how'd that go?
It went well. We had good attendance, good over almost, I would say upwards of 80 folks attended. And then we've got an active online survey as well right now.
Great, okay. Any questions, comments? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, next. Oh, I think before we go to the next, I probably missed an item here on number 3. We probably need to get a motion and a second to adopt the
Second.
safety plan. Got a motion, a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now let's go implement it. All right, next, Mr. Mathis, Old Town Road, Sam Rittenberg Maintenance Agreement approval.
Yes, sir. This is a standard maintenance agreement between City of Charleston, the SCDOT, and CARTA regarding the Charleston County improvements that will take place on Old Town Road as well as Sam Rittenberg. This is a project that's been going on for a while. Again, a standard agreement, and our legal staff has reviewed, and everything seems to be in order. So
Move for approval.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We've got a couple minutes. Mr. Mathis has asked for a couple minutes at the end of the meeting, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. As you can see, based on the number of presentations that we have had today at this meeting, we have a lot of work going on in transportation. So in the middle of this holiday season, I just wanted to say thank you to all of the 60-plus employees who have chosen to be a part of the traffic and transportation family. Most of these employees you will never meet or you'll never see, but they are the backbone of our department and the reason our department is able to do the work that we do. So from our traffic signal repairs to our signs and markings installations, to our inspections, to our parking and code enforcement, to our administrative staff and our project management team. They are integral to our operations, and just wanted to say thank you to each and every one of them at the end of the year this year. We had a successful 2025. We look forward to a successful 2026. And Chairman, thank you for your support on this committee, and Mayor, thank you as well for your support of traffic and transportation.
Well, thank you. I mean, your team literally keeps this city moving, and we want to thank them as well. And like you said, they're people you see as you're going past, hopefully faster rather than slower. So next time, slow down a little bit and at least give them a wave, because they really do an incredible job. Thank you. All right, we are on schedule for the last meeting of the year, unless there's any other comment, question from the gang. We're going out with a bang by looking at things that are going to make this city and this region safer and better going forward. So a good way to end. If there's nothing further for the greater good, by acclamation, we will call this team